stuff on.
Stream is live.
Says it is. It's just, Okay, and go live. There we go. Facebook it likes to do something completely different. And greetings, readers and travelers, and welcome to another episode of Chat and Stats. Now, I bet you're wondering if you're looking at the normal frames and everything, because we don't have these up on podcast apps yet. You'll notice that my frame is over on the other side instead of in the normal spot, and that's because I'm going to pass this over to my co-host and let him host this episode. So, Joel,
That is me.
take
It
it
is
away,
my
buddy.
show. I am taking over. Mwahahaha. No. Like you said, welcome readers and travelers, and this is going to be a good show. This is one that I have on my must keep up with series. Every time there's a release, I just have to read it. It's fantastic. But before we get into that, let me introduce who we got here. I am Joel, Sir Valor Hunter, and my co-host, other side. We got Richie Steven.
That's me. I'm actually changing my name right now to back to Rich Dolphins because I changed it for my episode with Timothy McGowan. So I had to change it back really quickly. But yeah, it's me. Hey, Joel.
How we
I'm doing
doing?
good, buddy. It's my first
Good.
day of vacation, and it's Dragon Con week. And, all that
I'm
fun
so
stuff.
jelly.
I'm
I
also
wish I would have gone, but I got married. Look at
You
this.
did.
Look at
You
this
did.
rock.
You did. And we had pictures that I finally got to see yesterday, and they turned out so good.
Oh, they did.
So now it's my
Also,
profile picture on Facebook. But
we
yeah,
got to introduce our guest for this episode. Selkie, how are we doing today?
Hey, I'm doing very well. Happy to be here. Happy to chat. Happy to
welcome aboard.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Glad to have you.
This is an episode we've actually had cooking up for a few months now. We were trying to figure out when the best time to do this episode was going to be, and we're like, you know what? Let's do it the week of Dragon Con.
Yeah, we had to schedule it between when I got married and got back from my honeymoon before Dragon Con starts, and I'm glad we got it in because this is an episode I've been looking forward to. So, if you don't know who Selkie is, or sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say before we get going, if you're tuning in on Facebook, we can't see your comments. I can if I switch over to the Facebook, but we can't see it on the actual thing. So please follow over to our YouTube, so that way we can see your comments and see who's talking to us. And if you have any questions, we can throw those into the chat. I posted a link, so go click on it. All right, Joel, take us away.
Yeah. So this episode we are covering Beneath the Dragon Eye Moons.
First book is Oathbound Healer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, Blair.
It is a female main character, and she kind of has this healer mage build going, which I am like all for. Like anytime we can get a healer book in, and
we don't get a lot of them.
No, there's probably like 3 I can think of out of the like 1,000 books that we have.
I can probably think of a few more, but then again, I sort of not hyperfixate, but whenever I see a healer book, I'm like, another healer book. Oh, wonderful. Let me go look at this. Let me, delve into it and look at the details and see what's going on here. Because obviously it is a big portion of the story. And as a result,
thank you, Jess.
I want to, sort of keep up with what's going on in my sub tiny niche genre.
Yeah. So I will say, as we're starting out with it and everything, that I'm happy to, 1, we get a good, strong female main character, and 2, a healer class, because we don't get enough of those. I mean, we really don't. So
my big inspiration actually was you know, I read Azurth Healer. I was expecting a healer and, you know, got a punchy brawler, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But, you know, the fundamental question I had when I said that was, what if Ilya actually healed people? You know, because that's something she basically never does. And so, you know, thus started the seed of this is going to be a story about a healer.
Yeah.
And, you know, then I was like, why does everyone always do the medieval period? The classical period, you know, has such great vibes and culture and look and appearance, and they do so much neat stuff. Forget the knights in the castles. We're going to do, you know, legions and shield walls and you know, we're going to do that. And then the last, you know, the third, you know, sort of triangle that, you know, I used as the foundation for all this was, why does everyone make up their own beast? The vicious Glork that was like half bamboo, half rhino. And it's like, what? It's like, we've got a billion monsters in dinosaurs.
Yeah.
My system was really encouraging and going towards everyone has magic. So I'm like, okay, velociraptors with laser eyes, T-Rexes that breathe fire. Let's go. You know, so those 3 points I consider the basis of the world and the Dragon Eye Moon story, and it all grew from there. Now, obviously, it grew into its own thing from there, but those are sort of the big 3 starting points that I sat down with before I was writing, and I said, this is going to be the basis. And I have made up no monsters in my, well, okay, I've made up 1 monster in my story, but for the most part, it's like, I need something big and scary. Let me flip through my list of dinosaurs. You know, I'm sure I've got, you know, I'm going to use a crocodile, you know, variant. I'm going to use a randomizer says a nodosaurus. What the heck's a nodosaurus? Let me look at, oh, that's interesting. It's like a tiny plesiosaurus. Okay, great. You know, I've got that. I'm going to use that as my dinosaur of the week. And, you know, what's nice is I don't quite have to introduce it that much, because if people want to know more, they can go look it up and be like, oh, wait, hang on. Here's an actual Nodosaurus. This wasn't, you know, some made up stuff. Granted, with the number of people that know what that is, given that it shows up in book 1, is very limited, that, you know, sort of goes back into the made it up thing, but sorry, Nodosaurus is later on. Actually, sorry, let's go back to my dinosaurs.
What is the creature they end up fighting that she has to save the rogue from?
Nothosaurus. So let me, I just Googled it. Let me just.
That's the one I thought you were talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it won't let me join the chat. So I'm just going to send the wiki link over here. There we go. Okay. And then maybe you guys can stick that in the main chat.
I can. For some reason, it doesn't like it to go to Facebook, so it blocks it. So we have to select YouTube or Twitch.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I posted it in the YouTube. It's there. So now I can look at it.
But yeah, you know, there is no need to make up my own monsters when I can just pull from history.
Yeah.
Okay. And similarly, I can also pull from mythology. And that was, you know, the point of, you know, the first arc. I was very careful to select a number of different creatures from all over the world and all over history. You know, I threw in a golden crow. That is a Southeast Asian, you know, mythology. Look, hey, I'm pulling from this part of the world. I pulled in Selkies. Those are Celtic mythologies. And of course, you know, my username obviously is related. I pulled in some dinosaurs. You know, I pulled in some yokai. And, you know, just like that. And of course, the title says Western dragons as well. And so with all that, you know, I very clearly signaled what I'm pulling from and how. And I was particularly pleased with that. I could do a lot more planning back in those days on, you know, getting all the details just perfectly right.
Yeah. As you can see, this book is built on fantastic world building. And one thing that I really love about this series is the mechanics. Just how you go about going through like class evolutions and like every time she gets a new ability or like changes her class and her abilities have to change, or she like learns different aspects of the world, and then she also gets like compare. I don't want to like dive like too deep and reveal too much, but
I
it
think if we
is,
keep it to book one, just give people
yeah,
that taste of, hey, this is a series worth starting.
yeah,
And I mean, what?
absolutely.
There's 11 books on Audible at the moment. Each book is more than 10 hours long. You're looking at,
I've had a
I
few
think
24-hour books, I believe.
book 11 is 22 hours and book 8 is 23. So it's like, yeah, there's content here. There's
Yeah.
some content. And it's a fun series. I'm currently working my way through book 2 and it's fun. It's a good series, and it's one of the ones Joel kept recommending to me. He's like, dude, you gotta check it out. You gotta check it out. Joel and I have a very, very different taste when it comes to a lot of things. But when we do find the series that actually hits a little bit better, then it just I don't know. Like we get that bond going again. And we've had a few where we've butted heads on like, hey, I really like this series. I don't.
It's
This is one of the ones that we didn't have that issue with. I just put it off for the longest time, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. I got halfway through book 1. I was like, all right, cool. Send Selkie the invite.
Yeah.
It's possibly worth noting that I was able to get the #1 popular this week spot on Royal Road and held it until I went to KU. And then I briefly went off KU and back onto Royal Road, reclaimed the #1 spot, said, yeah, I still got it, and then went back to KU. Oh, my dear goodness. KU pays me a little north of $10K a month, and that's too much money to pass up.
Jeez. Well, congratulations on that, I guess.
Thank you. But, it's got some mass appeal as well, is where I was going with that.
Yeah, definitely. I know it's hard to find books that both have the mechanic aspect where it just seems like possibilities of infinite power and just the way that your mind like wonders like, oh, what if this happened or this happened? And then also having the character development that like at least in this story, she finds herself, she finds these convictions that she sticks to throughout the series, and like the relationships that she makes along the way really just add so much to the series. And just whenever a book has like all of that, you know it's good. Those are the ones that me and Richie don't butt heads on.
No, because it's got a little bit of both of what I like and what he likes. Because he likes the more mechanic aspect of it and having that overall native system or game-like system. I care about the relationships with the characters and what they deal with. So obviously, main character, she goes through some shit from the start. And then when we get her oath that she's like, oh, I'm only gonna heal. I'm only gonna heal. It's like, oh, you done goofed there, but let's see how it plays out.
Yes.
It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out. So if it's got both of that thing, it's like Joel said, we usually can agree on having that, conversation of like, okay, this has a little bit of both. All right, this is good. This is good. And then there's the ones where we've actually had a few where it has both the mechanics and the system. And I hate the characters. I absolutely hate the characters. I've gotten through like 6 books of one series, and Joel praises it constantly, and I'm like, I'm not a fan. I can't do it. I won't name it because I don't want to dishearten the author. It's just it wasn't for me. So
Yeah, it honestly with her oath, how she's like always healing. I think at the end of book 1 we get her like class selection, and she I mean, it's book 1, so it's all right. She ends up getting this mage class added on, and just the way that can mess with her oath, it just like seems super interesting to me. Because she's like, "Oh, I'm not going to do any harm." She takes the what is it, the uh, healer's oath, based off of like the oath that doctors take.
It's a little more
Is it?
complicated than that. I actually drew inspiration because there's multiple medical oaths throughout history and throughout various cultures. There's the Oath of Hippocrates, is the famous one in the Western spheres, but there is also the one of Al-Budin. I'm probably mauling that, haven't remembered. And there's a few more, and I actually researched all of them, listed all of them out, and actually just drew inspiration from all of them in order to create hers. And, you know, I actually spent quite a long time crafting it because I knew it was going to underpin the restrictions and the rules the character was going to have to follow for the entire series. And there's a point a little later on, but I feel it's worth mentioning in book 1, that discusses the letter of the law versus the spirit of the oath, and how both the letter and the spirit have to be followed.
okay.
Yeah.
But the letter is not up for interpretation. The spirit is up for interpretation. And that's where you get into some very interesting parts where, you know, Elaine recognizes that she only follows the letter of some portions of it, whereas her spirit in other portions is extremely generous.
Right.
That, you know, the letter says X, but she does so much more than that. And it also changes and evolves over the series, how she interprets it.
Yeah.
So one of my questions is, how did you decide to come up with like the consequences for, like, say someone breaks an oath? How did you come to the aspect of like, all right, this is how this is going to work?
So I needed to have a true penalty. And you cannot, you know, another author I was talking with mentioned pain is not a penalty in a book, you know, because everyone expects characters to go raw and just power straight through pain. So it can't just be pain. The number of options I inflict on the character are also limited. You know, I can't start, you know, chopping off fingers or whatever. That doesn't really work as a penalty. It makes no sense. And so then, you know, what is one of the biggest penalties you can have in a lit RPG? Well, both system power-wise and reader-wise, losing power is one that people absolutely cannot tolerate.
Right.
And so by having the consequence be a loss of power, and then more than that, an escalating loss of power, it makes the penalty a real threat. You know, you do this, you're going to lose a chunk of what you can do forever. And if you decide, well, it's worth it this one time, that chunk is going to keep getting bigger and bigger. But then there's also times where, you know, the oath is directly conflicting with itself in various ways. And I had to be able to moderate that as well. And then there's also, you know, technical violations, you know, violating the letter while staying within the spirit. And, you know, I wanted to give an option of, it is not a strict penalty. There is a sliding scale. So narratively, I have wiggle room where, you know, some actions cause great discomfort, but she is trying to stay within the spirit of what's going on. So it's like, okay, you know, an example that doesn't pop up, but I'll be comfortable. You were trying to punch someone in self-defense, and they held up an invisible person in front of you that you ended up hitting instead. That technically is violating the letter of the things, but, you know, the spirit was, I'm doing this to defend my patient. So, like, there's, you know, some warning going on there because you've broken it, but you're trying to fill it. So, you know, there's some wiggle room there. Well, on the larger level of, look, you can't actively decide to break this. You've committed to this.
Yeah, it seems like when the penalties come into play, it almost feels sort of omniscient based on her feelings of what she's doing. Like if she knows it's wrong, there seems to be like a larger penalty. Where if she is like, well, that like it was justified, there seems to be like a little less of a
Exactly. You
penalty.
know, conscientiously breaking the rules is much worse than, you know, bending the rules with a really good reason to,
Right.
you know, in service of a higher rule.
Okay.
And, you know, there is growth and development as she figures this out. And then, of course, the question is, you know, what are those higher rules? Do they ever get reprioritized? Do they ever get shuffled? You know, for those who know, the Shimagu arc in particular had a lot of struggling with that of what is the higher principle. You know, is life the ultimate principle or something else a higher principle than, you know, a sapient life, regardless of what form it takes? And Joey, you're probably familiar with that. And, you know, Richard is thinking, I got to read faster.
Yeah, I gotta catch up. I'm probably gonna be listening to book 2 on my 8 to 9 hour drive down to Atlanta for Dragon Con on Thursday. So
So Rich, did you want to get into the emotional turmoil from
oh boy,
what
all
had you
right.
messed up?
So, you know, there's nothing that really sets the tone of a book. You know, like when a child dies at the very beginning. This way we know, hey, yeah, this kind of threw me through a loop because I was not expecting a child to die and how they died. That's
Yeah.
what made it even more gut-wrenching. But I get why it had to be done to get that oath going and everything. So yeah, it's
Yeah. I think it was
I
interesting. Sorry.
hold on. I'm just like I'm trying to put the thoughts into words properly so I don't say the wrong thing. Because I was at work. I was putting chips on a shelf because I work for a company that does that. And I was, oh, hi, Blair. Yes, I know, sweetie. Cat wanted in here, and now she doesn't want to leave. This cat hates me 9 times out of 10. Thank you. Why? Why did we have to see a child die because of bandages that were infected?
So, I mean, you know, the point as well was, as you said, to set the tone for the story in the series of there are some series that are more popcorn reads, I will call them. And there's nothing wrong with being a popcorn read of, you know, it is light, it is airy, it is shonen anime where, you know, the power of friendship prevails and everyone is home, you know, and happy at the end of the episode. Where there is no real loss. It is just fun and games, so to speak. I delve quite a bit and quite often into medical ethics and various other medical ethical conundrums. And that is not easy. That is not simple. I wanted the story to be complex in a sense, where there are problems and there are stakes. You don't know what is going to happen next. You don't know, I am demonstrating a willingness to bump off characters. You don't know that, the main cast is safe. You don't know that, people are going to be alive at the end of this. This means that the pages are actually, it's not, okay, how are they beating the villain? Ship. It's, wait a minute, let me carefully go through this because someone might bite the dust. And of course, there's the time skip.
Yeah.
Which would not be possible without, the prior events. And, it makes the medical decisions that come later impactful, as opposed to thinking, will everyone get out? No, parenthesis, the plague in book 2, I consider some of my best writing because of the aspect of justice, the medical terminology of justice of, there are 10 people here, I can heal 3 of them. Or I can heal 5 of them if I go for the less injured ones.
Right.
Who lives?
That kind of gives me
what
like
lives are worth more?
that gives me the what is it? The trolley decision where you have like 5 people on one side of the track, 1 people on the other. Which one's the lesser evil?
But it's not even the trolley problem because, it's you're saving people. And this was also, you have to remember sort of the context. This was peak COVID. I was doing this where doctors and hospitals literally had 5 ventilators and 20 patients that needed them and needed to decide who gets a ventilator and a chance and who is being told good luck. So, it's a real life problem of limited medical resources because the resources are always limited. And you've got people and you have to decide who gets them. Organ transplants are another big one. Motorcyclist dies. There's a bunch of fresh organs lying there.
Right.
Who is getting a new heart? Who gets a new kidney? Who gets a new liver? Those are real problems people face with where you've got a very limited resource. You need to dole it out. The emotional impact was to, as I said, set the tone of the story and set those types of problems going. There is medical ethics with brain death. There's medical ethics with triage. There's medical ethics with the other army is trying to kill me, but not anymore. Do I help them try to kill me again tomorrow?
Right.
Medical ethics is one of the hearts of the story, I feel like. And the question of how do I do it? Where do I do it? When do I give authority the finger and just do my own thing versus when do I, stay within the confines to, basically be told, okay, we like you. You can keep staying within the rules to keep doing your thing versus when do you violate them but lose the long term and burn the long term. Like, none of this is simple. None of this is easy.
Right.
I love how one of the workarounds they find for her oath is basically her party has to shield her from herself. Where, like, she will just heal anyone in front of her. But if there are, like, thousands of people, like, she can only do so much. So her party has to be like, okay, these people need it more, or like they set up a system that works for her.
Yeah.
And it goes to show as well, a healer is fundamentally a support. They can't do it themselves. And one of the things I like with Dragon Eye Moons is people work in teams for the most part.
Right.
Even the Sentinels, are altogether a team and they only send the right hammer after the right nail. And that is a form of teamwork as well. And the other part I really like, and I'm sidetracking a little bit, I'm sorry.
No, you're allowed to.
Everyone is a munchkin. Everyone has found a broken freaking thing that they are trying to exploit. Everyone has found, a nice way to, optimally kill the other guy, to find clever ways to, abuse all the resources they have at hand to be as strong as possible. That's where the artillery mages actually came in, where one of the most efficient ways to commit violence to another person is kinetic energy. One of the most efficient ways to deliver kinetic energy is with a hard object. What's a hard object all around you? Earth. And there's also the zone of control, because all of the rules of the system are written down in my notes. And I try to religiously stick to them.
Okay.
And that's part of where, mechanically the story is very strong, where I know exactly what 1 point of mana can do in 7 different scenarios. And kinetic energy being one of the best ways, the zone of control, an object in motion stays in motion. You make something go really fast, it'll stay going really fast. It'll go much further than other spells can go. And it does violence very well. Hey, it turns out throwing a stone at someone is one of the best things you can do as a mage. And so there's a lot of people who make their build around throwing rocks at each other very hard. Except more smaller rocks is deadlier. Thus was born the artillery mage. And by the way, this was a neat little accident that looped together nicely. Classical period, as I said, Rome was famous for its roads, and artillery mage in peacetime that manipulates earth is really good for making roads.
Yeah.
So
Nice. Okay.
you've got this state-sponsored killers, basically, of artillery mages that when they aren't needed to go blast the enemies of the state can be told to, circle around and fix all the potholes, basically. And so you always have a use for them. It's less, you don't really have the archetype of, the lazy mage that's only trotted out when the big battle happens. It's like, no, we don't have a big battle now. We still have a use for you. Get out there and, go make our logistics supply chains better, and I try to keep logistics in mind. I try to keep food in mind. Nothing so aggravating to me as the walled city that, hordes of monsters, bash themselves against. And I'm just here like, how do you guys eat? Where's the food coming from to, feed the city of 10 million people with no agricultural land? Guys, that's not how you get dinner on the table. So, I try to keep all those factors together.
Right.
And, of course, people are self-interested. And so I try to write that. That was, the big thing with Augustus. And, mimicking actual history, Rome is also great because I just have to go to actual history and I've got a million cool things to pull in. Like Artemis, a lot of people say, wait a minute, you're building a really sexist society, but then all of a sudden you have Artemis here. How does that work? Well, Rome was famously sexist, and one of the top famous lawyers was a woman, and explained that. Well, it's, real life. It doesn't have to make sense. And people are like, well, you're world building, The other thing is, well, I get a lot of comments about the sexism, and, sexism makes no sense. And it's like, that's right. Sexism does not make sense, yet it exists anyways. Like, you almost got it. You almost have it. Magic does not change the human condition. It's
No.
one of my things.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things I was curious about when I started it, or started the series with it being a female, main character. I was like, all right, how is the world going to treat her? Because we've seen how people are treated in today's society. So it always makes me nervous for any time there's a female main character, because it's like, okay, is she going to be looked down upon? Because, she's not as strong as a man. Quotations. I'm not.
Yeah.
I need to clarify really quickly that I don't support
Muscle
sexism. It's bullshit. It really is. Everyone is equal across the board, through and through. That's how I've always seen life. So it made me nervous, but I like how everything's being handled so far. I like how Elaine carries herself, because she doesn't seem like a whiny, main character. She wants to improve. She has the ability to do what she needs to do, at least where I'm at right now.
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak for further into the series because I'm not terribly far like Joel is, but
one of the sort of this is going to sound weird, but one of the nice things about having her be in that world for 8 then 14 years through a whole new life is she managed to adopt a lot of the sort of the cultural norms and the cultural vibes in a way, and integrate the worthwhile ones into her personality. Death in the classical era was treated a lot more lightly because it happened a lot more. And they even explicitly desensitized people to it. That was arguably one of the functions of the Colosseum, was desensitizing people to death. It happens. I was originally going to go a lot darker, where Elaine was an only child because none of her other siblings survived childhood. I decided to tone it down a little.
That would have been brutal.
But that was sort of the culture, and there's very much with her upbringing, it's like, if you don't do it yourself, nobody's going to do it for you. It's part of why she's not very religious, because praying to the gods, please intervene on my behalf, doesn't help you get out of a situation. You have to, stand up, dust off your knees, and do it yourself. And that is sort of a fundamental truth to Elaine, that if she doesn't do it, nobody's going to do it for her. So she's got to do it.
Yeah.
One doesn't help, so she doesn't do it.
I was going to say one example I'm trying to make sure that I should have asked this before the episode, because I'm trying to remember correctly. She runs into a burning house.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
I do remember. That's where she gets, the burns and everything. But everyone else just standing out on the sideline, not really doing anything. So she had to do it.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, girl, damn, you get it. Like, there's your boss moment right there.
Yeah.
Because she's, statistic wise, like for her actual stats, she doesn't have a lot of points into strength.
No.
So her running in there, ballsy move. Ballsy move. But I mean, it did work out the way it needed to go for the story to have that impact, to show that she's not going to stand there and watch people get hurt. It's against her oath to do so.
Exactly.
So I like that. It was a gut-wrenching moment. It gave me anxiety. I was curious to see how it worked out. As soon as it happened, I called Joel and I said, "What the hell are you having me read?"
What was also really fun with that scene is I was able to put in, as I said, real Rome was a rich source of things. By the way, some people don't get this, so I'll just very explicitly say it, and some people have some moments of realization. It's called Remus because of the myth of Romulus and Remus, where, real world is Rome, fantasy version is Remus. And so, there is that origin myth, the Roman origin myth, flipped on its head a little.
Okay.
And it is the Nostrum Sea because the Romans called the Mediterranean Mare Nostrum. I see at least one person who hasn't, done that before.
Okay, I mean, that makes sense. So that's
there's
cool.
a lot. The scene with the people, trying to buy the house actually happened in real Rome, where this was the first insurance companies and the first fire brigades. They were the same thing of pay us the money and we'll extinguish your house fire when they happen. If they don't pay the money, they'll show up and they will bid ridiculously low, saying, we'll buy your house for, $100K. No, it's worth more than that. Okay, they watch it burn. All right, we'll pay $80K now. No, watch it burn a little more. Okay, it's worth $50K now. And, the moment the homeowner agrees to sell the place for, dirt cheap, basically, they send in the fire brigade, extinguish it, and, make a bunch of money off that.
Okay.
which clearly got quite a lot of people peeved off over the years. But that's actually what happened. That's the source of both insurance companies and fire brigades. And we sort of get to see that origin there and all this sort of a slave, whatever, life not worth it. Move on with life. And it also loops back to the callousness around life and death.
Okay. Joel.
Yeah. So one thing I did want to mention is this is an isekai where a character comes from Earth and is reincarnated as well, isn't she like a golden crow first or something?
So, okay, Papillion suggested, oh, hey, do you want to be a golden crow? And Elaine was like, what is that? No, thank you. Please make me a human.
Yeah.
Instead. And so Papillion was like, okay, human, sure, I guess. Yeah.
So with her, Isekai as a human, she has all these beliefs from Earth, where like equal rights and just like how strong women can be, and it is interesting to see how she almost reforms like that idea for society with her becoming like one of the Sentinels. And
I thought we were keeping this mostly book one. Do we want to keep it mostly book one, or do we want
my
to
bad
more?
Joel, you're the host. I will let you decide if you want to push it beyond the one book rule.
If I did that, we'd be here for hours. I feel like, honestly, I'll just keep it to book one mostly. We can talk about other stuff in general.
I've touched a little bit on some other stuff, especially Parenthus. I feel like, that arc to me sort of represents the very heart of the story. So, let's push it there, but no further. And Richard, I don't know how far you are into book 2, but it is the central arc of book 2.
I'm on chapter 10. Last I looked.
You are getting there. Okay.
If something gets spoiled to me, that's fine. I had a beta copy or a review copy come in for a book, so I'm like powering through that book really quickly and then going back to book 2. The podcast life is so much fun sometimes.
Man, it has been so long since we had an episode.
Well, I mean, I had an episode. You were sleeping.
That's because you had it at like 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it's the
which is what the time I get ready for work.
And we had it at 8.
Let's talk about the important thing here. Me, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we did have a question in the comments. I want to throw that up really quickly. So you explore moral dilemmas, overpowering abilities, emotional exhaustion, dependency, isolation, cultural conflicts, limitations, and side effects. Which was the easiest to write about?
Okay, this is going to sound terrible, but it's easy. The easiest thing for me to write is emotional devastation. The really sad scenes, minor spoiler for later on, those of you who know, those of you who don't, won't. Like the mango bowl scene, for example, that was one of the easiest scenes for me to write in a way where it's just, I know exactly what to say for maximal emotional devastation. Where
Richie's like, oh, great.
I was, crying writing that scene, but like those scenes are just so easy for me to write. And I actually have to really watch myself that I don't fall into the rut of writing these devastating, constantly writing these devastating scenes where I'm just like, I could just so easily write this. And it's like, no, I can't just be, if I keep emotionally devastating people, it loses all impact and then it becomes misery porn and then nobody wants to read it. I don't want to do that. So I want
to, I'll read it. Make me depressed.
I want to hold on to it. Similarly, it's the same sort of thing with mangoes, where they're sort of fan service almost at this point, where how much they're enjoyed and how much they're liked and how much they're requested, but like I don't want to Flanderize my own character by doing it too often.
Right.
I have to be careful and judicious about when and where I have these really happy moments, where if you do too much of one or too much of the other, it loses impact and it no longer, as I said, it Flanderizes my own character, my own series. I enjoy writing the ethical and moral dilemmas the most. I think there's some of the most interesting things that can be written about. I think that they're one of the main things that hopefully at the end people stop and think, I didn't know that, or that's interesting, or, they take something away with them that sticks with them. One weird issue I'm running into is I'm starting to run out of high level, accessible moral dilemmas that don't really go into the weeds. I've hit, you take all the parts I've got and you've got, moral, medical ethical dilemmas 101 as a college course, basically, where I've hit a lot of them.
Okay.
I did not expect to be able to do a Brain Dead mini arc either. And unfortunately, I kind of destroyed my own Brain Dead arc. So, that was a bit of a shame, but the rest of it just made too much more sense instead.
Now I'm curious as to what's in store for me.
Oh,
God.
Okay, let's see. Is life the most important thing? Versus is there some other ethic more important than preservation of life for a medic and a healer? There is brain death. There is what is a life with the mirror copy of, that one actually went in a direction I did not expect it to either, which I was disappointed about. I wanted that to really be back to the nitty gritty of mechanical healing, as opposed to whisk the patient off to somewhere else.
Is there a dilemma with? Oh no, you said. Okay, never mind.
Is the active healing dilemma of people need help, but other people need help. There is my life or my oath. Do I prioritize keeping myself alive versus filling the letter of the oath? And it sounds like a simple question, but it's not, because if you keep yourself alive, you've sworn to do this thing, but if you keep yourself alive, you can help many more people. Sacrificing yourself to save one life today isn't a good decision when keeping yourself alive can save 10 people tomorrow, but you've sworn to keep that one person alive today. What do you do?
Isn't there a sort of teaching Amanda Fish dilemma with like relying on her for? I could be wrong, but
so what's the teaching one?
If you teach Amanda Fish, you feed him, or if you
oh yes,
the teach Amanda Fish feed for a day.
Yes, teach Amanda Fish versus teach people to heal. There's the dilemma of when we get later on, do I just heal everyone, but I cut the legs out from up and coming healers? If new healers have no patience, they can't level. If they can't level, they can't get stronger, they can't get better, they can't learn things, because the study of medicine has a lot of hands-on practice. If I remove all the hands-on practice from people, have I crippled the next generation of healers, especially when I move on? Or, is it worth it? But you let people suffer in the meantime, and you recognize that some people will slip through the cracks if you don't. What's the correct move there? Do you blindly heal people or not? And there's more. None of the questions I came up with are simple. They all require thought. And then, of course, Joey, you mentioned you're current. Are you current on Patreon?
No. So Phoenix
Yeah.
Peaks is the last book I read.
Okay. So this one will be a minor spoiler, but when do you seek out people to help versus when do you try to help your home? You know, there's that question as well of, people somewhere, someone over in that direction is probably hurt. Do I go over there?
Yeah.
Okay.
As I said, I really enjoy the ethical dilemmas, but as I said, I'm running out of them, and it's good because I'm approaching the end of the series. So I've sort of said what I need to say. I will say a mistake I sort of made. I sat down and I was, as I said, very inspired by Azurith Healer, and I thought, oh, just like Ilya always goes out to punch another monster, I can always have Elaine go out and heal another problem. The problem was that I did all of the rebuilding, the sort of crafting arcs almost, and then I automated the crafting portion, and that was for Elaine absolutely the right decision to make. But narratively, boy, did I lose a lot of leeway. But it also let me write cool scenes like the deodorant scene, I'll call it, with the Axe body spray.
I don't think I've gotten that far yet.
Yo,
You haven't, Joey? I know you've read it. The dwarves, the tunnels, the axe.
Hold on, he's thinking. I hear the gears turning.
The decapitation scene.
Yeah. Okay. What about that scene? Sorry.
Well, persistent casting allowed that scene to happen.
Yes. Yeah.
But there's the terrible joke of Axe body spray.
I'm so confused as
now
to
I
what's
remember.
happening, and I'm very curious to see where I'm going to get this. Okay.
Bad puns.
That was really another moral dilemma she had, right? Where she watched herself, like, these things happen to her, and she was like, "Am I still me?"
Yes. Oh, in the bloopers. Yes, I could not get that scene properly written to be canon. I was struggling with it, and the feedback I was getting from my betas was negative on that. That I was not landing that scene well. I was not doing it well, but I did feel this ship of Theseus stuff, and it was all written, and so I actually ended up creating the bloopers and included it in there. And a lot of people pointed out, various problems with the scene. I was like, yeah, guys, that's why it's in the bloopers and not actually real. But this was supposed to be the real scene of the ship of Theseus, basically.
So one question I did want to ask is, what is your favorite blooper?
Oh, so one, I actually want to edit this in. So this is a non-known blooper, but and it's a visual pun as well. Oh, I can't type it in chat, so I'm going to type it in here. So I know I got this class, was offered this class. Right? She got offered, the Dragon Slayer class.
Mm-hmm.
But we all know Iona's personality.
Yeah.
See, you change one letter of capitalization.
Love it. I like that. All right.
And of course, she is a character that, her charisma score is, 25 innately.
Yeah.
And then took additional skills to, give her a +8 to it. So, she starts with a base 33 with all the feats and everything in charisma. So she could absolutely pull that class off.
Oh, she could.
I also loved how Elaine had.
For the people who don't see our chat, it was a character was offered a Dragon Slayer class, and the blooper would be she's offered a Dragon's Lair class, with all the letters being the same, just the S capital turning into an L capital.
Because she lays them dragons. Mm-hmm.
Well, one thing I did enjoy was how Elaine has low charisma, and that's sort of a running joke throughout the series.
Mm-hmm.
Well, part of her low charisma was because of the burns, right?
She promptly fixed herself 2 chapters later.
She did, yes.
Yeah.
I'm
She's a healer. She kind of like heals everything.
Yes.
kind
So, okay, a large part of that is actually sort of me bleeding through. The ADHD, a lot of people have said, it's Elaine, autism code. It's like, yeah, that's actually me bleeding through into the character. Because authors can't help but put some of themselves into the characters.
right.
And both the wild ADHD is all me, and the little bit of autism leading through, that's also me. But that, ties into a lack of charisma, because all of a sudden, if she's also charismatic, I'm writing too close to a Mary Sue who can do absolutely everything. And that's not really fun to read. That's not really fun to write. That just, devolves into, another Mary Sue. And, of course, as time goes by and, she grows and works on herself and tries to improve it, she gets better and better at all this. But that's also part of character growth where, I think book 3 spoilers. Sorry.
Go ahead. It is fine.
Yeah, no, but I don't want to spoil it too much because, if anyone hasn't read it, the character that, the major character that starts with N, has all sorts of interesting things going on with that, where, well-rounded and all that once you've been around a while. And that's sort of what I, want to show was, the difference. The flaw is still there, but there are now tools to cope with those flaws. For example, Elaine and social interactions is always really bad. And this is a minor spoiler, but not too much, where she eventually, mentally writes out her big book of rules for social interactions of, okay, in this scenario, this person is like this, and I'm like this, and therefore I should be acting like this, and I should say something nice about them. I should, shake their hand. I should, and basically the weakness is still there, but the coping mechanism is shown. And so it's less of a Mary Sue of, she knows exactly how to do it, and more we see inside her head how she has learned to cope with this.
Okay.
And that's sort of the approach I really like, where she still struggles with the social interactions, but she has the tools to handle them.
Gotcha. Okay. So we are coming up on our hour mark. Joel?
Yeah.
I'll let you start doing the final takes before we start wrapping it up.
Well, let's where can we find your work?
So Kindle Unlimited pays me obscene amounts of money, about $150K a year, and so it is on Amazon. The series is Beneath the Dragonite Moons. The first book is called Oathbound Healer. That is where you can find it. I don't get paid very much for the audiobook, so go read it on Kindle Unlimited. I get paid for that.
All right.
Cool.
I have the most current thing, so those of you who cannot wait for book 13, book 13 will be fully posted on Royal Road before it goes to Kindle Unlimited. And this time it's actually going to be a simultaneous launch of the ebook and KU at the same time.
Okay.
And then, of course, Patreon is 25 chapters ahead, and at 3 chapters a week, with 1 week being taken off every month, that is a lot ahead of where stuff is. And then personally, I am a little bit ahead of that. So I am about 3/4 of the way done with book 14 right now.
Okay.
11 is
I
up
am
on
super
audio. 12 is up on Amazon. 13 is currently being posted on Royal Road, and 14 is on Patreon.
Wow. A
I
lot of
feel
content
like
there.
Book 16 is going to be the last one. I've got it all plotted out until the end.
Okay. I got some catching up to do.
Yes.
I gotta get caught up. Good thing we have them all. I just
You're
need to
on
catch up.
vacation, so you can read it now.
Oh, I got some beta codes I gotta get through first.
I know I'm excited to see where this goes, but I'm also like fearing the end. You're like, oh, this is book 16, it's gonna be the end. And I'm like, oh no, we're almost there. What but yeah.
I will say
Did
that
you have any questions for us?
no, not really.
Okay.
I will say long series, the more I write, the harder it is to keep going. The early chapters came off super fast, but
Right.
later on there's the weight of the whole series that needs to be remembered and maintained. And I actually find myself struggling quite a bit to write under that. And I'm actually sort of glad that the finish line is in sight. I'm also very happy that my planned end is still the planned end. The details of it have changed, some of the stuff around it has been modified, but the plan is still there. I'm still on track, and I'm very happy about that.
That's always a good thing.
So like Rich said, we are starting to wrap up, and normally we do a what you've been reading, but it has been so long since we had an episode. So there's
episode.
there's a long list. But I guess I will start off with Rich. What you been reading?
Whew. Okay. Let me pull out the old Audible really quickly because I've just been listening while I'm at work because I went back to full duty at work and I'm burnt out. So last week, actually for the past 2 weeks, Audit Team 6 got its audiobook, so I read through that. I ran away to Evil, a cozy lit RPG rom-com, which was super cute because Rachel kept recommending it and screaming at me, so had to read that one. I powered through The Assistant and Apprentice to the Villain, so books 1 and 2 of that series, which was actually fun. It's a cutesy little fantasy enemies to lovers type trope. It's fun. I got me out of the genre for a minute. Time Marked Warlock by Shami Stovall. All the Skills book 4, and I am currently listening to Desecrate for Knights of Eternity book 2 by Rachel Niekirk because that dropped today, and that has been on my most anticipated list. So
From your recent stuff, I think you would enjoy Soul Guardian when that drops.
okay, I'll definitely check that out. That's I always love a good recommendation. My backlog is massive.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Same cozy theme that the rest of the stuff you have has.
Okay. All right, I'll check that out. There was one other I just read and I can't remember what it was. Joel, I'll let you go ahead. I gotta find it real quick.
Yeah, so most recently I've been reading Blood Knight book 2. I finally got my physical copy of that.
Yeah, it's not been sitting at my house for like the past month.
Also, we got a code for Age of the Behemoth, which is VR MMO Monster Hunter with like real world cryptocurrency gotcha aspects to it. Summoner's Awaken book 2. I started that one recently. I read through Time Marked Warlock. That was really, really good.
Really good.
A big one I was excited for that came out was All the Skills book 4. And then I'm trying to catch up on Chrysalis, which is the Ant Isekai series. Before that, I read Apocalypse City, which is Apocalypse Me Book 2. I know I did like a whole rant on Apocalypse Me Book 1 because I just really enjoyed it.
It was good.
It
was good.
It was good. So I had to pick up book 2. And then before that, I did a re-listen to like He Who Fights with Monsters just because I needed something in my comfort zone. And then going back through, I was like, I really just wanted to re-listen to book 4, where it's like,
Spoilers.
other than that, Darling of Fate book 2 came out, so I really enjoyed that one. But that's mostly been it. Selkie, you want to give us your list?
So, okay, I am a full-time author, and I take one of my fundamental pieces of advice that I really take to heart is read a lot and write a lot. I read a lot.
Any notable mentions?
So, I have read every major story that is in this genre.
Okay.
Which it took me way too long to start reading He Who Fights with Monsters. That was the last one on the checklist. But, you can even see I've got, a little Beware of Chicken plushie that, Podium sent me as a thank you for helping get Beware of Chicken up and off the ground. My current Patreon list. So these are the people I am willing to fork over money for. Is Macronomicon and The Legend of William O. Slekia and Super Supportive. Lunadia with Syl. And Druels with Elidias.
Okay.
Disclaimer, I have a financial interest in Syl. So, figured I'd just mention that. Then my recent read list. Let me just look through my follow list to see what the heck, because I've got a bunch of stuff that, Okay, let's see. Primal Hunter, Beware of Chicken, all the skills. I need to get caught up on the most recent one. Thundermoo just dropped Are You Even Human? And that is brilliant. I love that one. There is Godslayers, The Butchers of Gadadora, which is pretty fun, although the author has said he doesn't really know where he's going with the story. Metaworld Chronicles, Delve. Really like The Wandering Inn and A Practical Guide to Evil. There is everything by Mechanimus, Journey of Black and Red, Changeling, and The Calamitous Bomb. I'm a beta reader for.
Okay.
Raven's Dagger, I am a huge fan of, and most of his works.
Dead Tired. We've praised Dead Tired a lot on here. We actually have Justin coming on to promote book 3 sometime after DragonCon.
So, as you might not know, I own Mango Media, who did Dead Tired.
Okay.
We're the ones who took Dead Tired from the back of Raven's, list and made it go boom. And I'm actually endlessly pleased with that, basically everyone turned down Dead Tired. I asked Raven, hey, Raven, I want to start a publishing company. Do you have any, series you want to send us? He's like, yeah, I've got Dead Tired and a few more. And I was able to make Dead Tired go kaboom. And so, super happy to see that you guys, liked it as well.
Oh, we loved it. And Justin is the perfect narrator for our favorite Bone Daddy. Like, it's just it's perfect.
I read the big ones. I'm sorry, I'm going through my list. Azrath Healer, huge fan of that. Sadly complete.
Book 4 comes out soon.
A Practical Guide to Evil and Sorcery.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm just going through my list of Discords and seeing which ones I'm
You mentioned Wandering In. Have you tried Gravesong yet?
Yes. I was subscribed to the Patreon, so I got to read it for free. Quotation marks. Pirate Abba just casually dropping a whole book on
awesome.
everyone.
I was waiting for the audio for that one just because of Andrea Parsnow doing the narration for it. It was perfect. I
Singing
loved
some
every second.
Disney songs.
So
Dungeon Crawler Carl, of course, I'm eagerly waiting for the next one.
freaking Matt Denneman.
I've actually poked. Sorry, no, never mind.
Oh no, Matt and I, we have a love-hate relationship. He loves to have people send me feet pics, and I hate it. So I'll be seeing him in a couple of days.
Let's see, I mentioned the Primal Hunter already. Mark of the Fool was also very good, and I subscribed to that Patreon until it ended. At which point, I am a terrible fan, and I promptly unsubscribed. Waiting for his next thing, and eagerly excited. And yeah, so that is the current. Brain Punch is also a lot of fun. Fox's Tongue and Kieran's Bone was great, but the author seems to have fizzled out a little bit. And that's one of the things with the web serial world that I'm very deep into. That is always disappointing. Is it's like they start off strong, and you sit back and you're just like, yeah, but this is the new author. Are they really gonna make it? Let's give it a few months to see if they implode spectacularly on themselves before I get invested in something.
Right.
Because The Many Lives of Cadence Lee is the classic example of that. Of amazing story, did great, author went boom. No more Cadence Lee. Much disappointment for everyone who's read it. Yeah, that is my current reading list.
It's a lot of books.
That's a damn lot of books.
I recently got a very big shelf, and I am preparing to put everything on it. Speaking of paperbacks, I recently commissioned a huge mural, and I'm going to slice it up along all the spines. And so when someone has the whole book collection, they get a beautiful mural of the entire series.
Okay, that's actually pretty cool.
That is cool.
That makes me think back to like the old like Dragon Ball and like One Piece mangas, where once you get one, it just completes a piece.
I'm gonna need that. Take my money.
I'm looking for something like. Hang on. Let me just get it. And the spine on it as well as there's a lot of Elaine's adventures as she goes through this all, and I don't know if you can actually see that link or not. Discord, something like that.
That would be really cool.
Oh, that's really cool. I like that.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
All right. Well, I think we are that's wrapping up the show. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah.
Joel, I'll let you do the final.
Thank you for having us on. Thank you, our amazing listeners and watchers. It's been a fantastic day, and I will see you guys next time.
Oh, one last thing, by the way. People were asking about pastos, and I figured.
What?
And he's gone. All right. Well, I guess we'll end it.
I think you did that on purpose.
I think he did as well.
All right.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We hope you have a wonderful time, and look forward to the content I will be posting on TikTok for while we're at DragonCon. And I have a few things planned out, so it's gonna be a good time. So we will be posting an updated schedule here soon. Just stay tuned. Joel, you did a good job today, buddy. I'm proud of you.